You're listening to the Living Inside Out podcast, and I'm your host, Toks Aruoture. This is episode 71. Welcome to the Living Inside Out podcast, where we believe the inside is superior to the outside. Episode 71 is Raising Our Boys with Intention with Kiki Jolugbo. I have a guest today, and I am so excited because this whole guest thing is new. I have a wonderful friend, a wonderful lady, Kiki, and she is going to be talking to us about something that's really close to her heart and mine, and you're going to find out why. I'm going to read her professional bio. Bukola Jolugbo, fondly known as Kiki, a voice and catalyst for raising exceptional boys into world-class leaders and for building a positive and sustainable relationship between fathers and teenage boys, is recognized for her passion for the male gender. Other than being a professional process engineer and user experience analyst, Kiki is the founder of Joshua's Army, a leading global organization providing mentorship, resources, events, and community to help parents intentionally raise their teenage boys into wholesome men. Its initiatives include Boys to Men Institute, Boys for Real Academy, Parenting Today's Teenage Boys Summit, the Better Dad Club, and Dad and I Dinner. Her newest initiative is Naomi's Tribe, a circle of mothers raising extraordinary sons. Kiki is sold out to seeing boys live full, focused, enlightened, and well-developed lives to become world-class men through various life-transforming practical trainings for the boys and families as a whole. She's also enthusiastic about helping fathers break free from limiting mindsets and habits and beliefs to full and enjoyable living with their sons. She is skilled at coaching families, fathers, and mothers of teenage boys and the boys for effective family life using techniques that promote communication, fun, and spiritual growth of the whole family. Bukola is married to her love, her good man, and they are blessed with two amazing sons who are world-class leaders in the making. Welcome to the podcast, Kiki.
Thank you so much. Thank you. As you read, I was wondering, is she talking about me?
Yes, indeed. I am talking about you. And this is so inspiring to read. And, we share the same love for boys because I have 4 boys. You've got 2 sons. And we know what it's like to be that special woman surrounded by just men, because I think it's it's very special and it's very different.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a rare privilege. And you know what? I love being a mama boy. I love it over and over again. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
You're welcome. You're one of the first of the guests that we're having on the podcast, because I've been recording it for upwards of 2 years, going on to 3 years now. And we only had our first guest, not counting my best friend Susie, but our first guest last Saturday. So It's wonderful to have you on, and thrilled. So cannot wait to get to know you better, how you got into this whole thing with boys. It's obvious you have sons. It makes perfect sense. But let's start with your business journey first of all. How have you arrived at this point? Because I was reading all those titles of what you're doing with user experience and everything. I thought, okay, we have to know more. Tell us about your journey so far.
Okay, so like you said, yes, thank you very much again. My name is Bukola. I love to be called Kiki, and Kiki, I think Kiki just spans from the part of my love for family. It's Kiki is myself and my oldest brother's way of pronouncing Buki when we were babies.
That is so sweet.
Yeah, we don't call me Buki, we go Kiki. So in my family, they call me Kiki, and so when people say, I say go Bukola or you go Kiki because I'm not Buki,
That's cute. That is so cute. I love it.
And I think it's, again, like I said, it's because part of my love for the family unit. I just love to feel that love and bonding, closeness with the family. And so professionally, I am a a process engineer. And along the line, I migrated into becoming a system service design specialist, and I focused on user analyst. So engaging with the end users to understand what they want and what they expect from the services of the organization. So right now I consult for public sector. And so with the likes of MOJ, Cabinet Office, DEFRA, HMRC, just to understand what the citizens are saying about our services and how the citizens can help improve the public sector service, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
And then work with boys, Josh's Army. Oh, that's like the center. Passion. I love to work with boys, and I've worked with boys for a couple of years. And so my mindset is there's been a lot of great or a great degree of empowerment and, centered around the female gender, the girls and women. And so it's beginning to feel like that our girls are being empowered while our boys are left to grow. But that's leaving them to grow doesn't mean that the society doesn't have its own expectations. The expectations are there, but no one is paying attention to teaching them. So I always give this analogy that you tell a child to tidy up the room, but in fairness, the meaning of tidy is different from your meaning of tidy. So it's being able to train our boys to understand who they are, first of all, raising our boys and not just leaving them to grow. So my focus has been on what focus is. One, we don't train them, and then we're focusing on what they've done or what they're doing wrong.
That's so true.
So my focus is training, raising the boys, or the boy child to be developed, so that it not just to meet the societal expectations, but to be developed for their own self and be men who understand who they are and are able to live well inside out. And this started over a decade ago. When I relocated to the UK, and it became an organization about 7 years ago.
All right. Wow. Well done. That tugged at my heartstrings, and I agree. And I have to confess that it has crossed my mind, but it's not something that I've thought deeply about. So I think about my boys, or when I'm in conversation with people, and the next thing you hear is they start putting men down or boys down, it riles me. So I have a reaction then. But I think I've always been focused on my boys, but not really other children, other boys per se. Although I do have a heart for boys, obviously, when I see kids who are my son's ages, it's like seeing my own son as well. And I'm sure it's the same with most parents, right? But I think it's so true and wonderful that you're doing what you're doing, because there's so much female empowerment, which was needed because women were a bit looked down on, second-class citizens, and women are not always as outspoken as men, and we hear the thing saying it's a man's world and so on. And it's great to have all of that, but for real, boys do need to be empowered too. And annoyingly, a lot of people feel like you cannot empower one gender and the other one at the same time, like one has to be demeaned or put down than the other. Do you find that to be the case?
Yes, that's like what is happening actually, and I strongly disagree with that. We don't need to pull one down to pull the other up. And one thing I say is, if we look at it from the perspective of the family unit, I was talking to my son, I think it was yesterday, we were just having a chat, and we're talking about, girls' perspective, what girls think about boys, and, particularly for their age, and, how it's so difficult to keep a relationship because of the mindset of girls that, the boys are this, and so I'm not going to take that. So whatever happens, they feel they're worth more than the boys, and they easily discarding the boys,
Yes.
And so, and if you flash back to our generation, that's what was happening. The men, looking down and discarding the female gender. Now,
that's
and
right.
began to empower the female gender, and that is suppressing the male gender. And I think that is still not going to give us the family balance we want. And when there is no balance in the family, there won't be balance in the society. So it's a case of being able to raise the boy and the girl child together, ensuring we have a balanced foundation for a functional family.
That's right.
And
also to produce, sorry to cut you short, also to produce members of society that contribute to the world positively, as opposed to people who are broken and angry.
Exactly. And if you look at it, Toks, you would agree with me that if men are raised properly to understand themselves, understand what masculinity is, identify themselves, there won't be female oppression. So there won't even be need for that feminism and all of those things we preach, because the men, they understand themselves and they're able to channel their strength, their masculinity in the right way as leaders. Does that make sense? And so that's like what I am pursuing to say, you know what, the boy child can be a proper human being, can be a wholesome human being. It just starts with us paying attention to the boy child, to raising them and not just leaving them to grow up.
Absolutely. And certainly no pitching one gender against the other.
Because
there is this mindset in the world that I think I saw it, I began to notice it when I looked at American politics, and when Donald Trump was in power, or when he was even campaigning, and it was always, the fight between the Republicans and the Democrats. When I lived there, I remember asking someone, a friend of mine who's American, she's from the South, and I said, "Oh, do you get along well with your mother-in-law?" And she goes, yeah, I do, but my mother-in-law cannot stand my sister-in-law, that's her husband's brother's wife. And I was like, "What's wrong?" And she goes, oh, because my mother-in-law is Republican and sister-in-law is Democrat." And she said it so matter-of-factly, like, which, they are not supposed to get along. And then during the election, you begin to see where people feel, if you are not Republican, then you hate me, and if you're Democrat, then we cannot agree together. And I even have a friend obviously on both sides, but I see a lot of vitriol coming from one particular camp, and, just like pointing up fingers and putting down. And I think about when it comes to men and women in society, and how men are viewed, men are presented, and how women are viewed, because of a lot of the abuse that happened, like you said, where men were using and discarding women, a lot of these hurt and broken women figured out coping mechanisms. And now those coping mechanisms are being sold as truth and syrup and serum to the world. And then young ladies are buying it. And so you hear things like, "You're a queen, don't take nothing from any man, and don't do this. And if he's not earning XYZ, then you don't want to be with him. And if he's not this, and he must do this." And the focus is on, and they load this heavy burden on men, on young men. And it's not surprising. I don't know if I'll ask you this question, actually. We're finding, when I'm looking around and we're speaking to young men, many of the men, the young guys that I speak to, they're not even keen on getting married. And I feel like that's because of the way that women have stepped out of their traditional makeup, the way that God made them to be. And they've become this, rather than being recipients of love, they've become throwers of hate. Do you find that to be the case at all? What do you think that the whole view on marriage is with the young men?
Absolutely, I agree with you. And, I said earlier on that I was having a conversation with my older son yesterday. And, one of the things he said was, it might just be better to adopt a child and just take care of your child as a single father.
Wow.
And, I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
okay,
Wow.
now let's retract, let's go back and, visit this. So I agree with you. And in fairness, I was shocked that was coming from my home,
Yes, from him.
But
Yeah.
I'm so glad that it was open enough to have that conversation with me.
To say that.
And
Yes,
it opened up some kind of deep conversations that we had yesterday to say, you know what, this might be what it seemed like, but there is still that place for the family unit. And I want to say, I'm a Christian and I look at my life, that's where my perspectives come from. That's what feeds my thought and everything, that's way of life. And I want to say that if we do not step up, particularly as Christian parents, the devil's agenda is to destroy the family unit because he knows the family
100%.
is important to God. And so if we do not step up, this light will continue to be sold. And then at the end of the day, there won't even be a family unit anymore. Within the Christendom, there is this issue of the family is no longer important. Like my son was saying yesterday, maybe just get a child, be a single father. Thank God he wasn't saying maybe wasn't saying having a baby mama and those kind of things, but get out and being a single father. And then in another case is the case of I'm not going to take any nonsense from any man. He does this, I'm going to walk out. And again, in another case is the case of what marriage even means now, which is different from what we've always known it to be. The devil is selling its agenda. And I think we need to wake up and be more proactive within the house, a lot of, within our homes, and, be deliberate about the messages we're passing across our home and the things we're teaching our children. Not just the male child, not just the female child, but our children, ensuring we're, teaching them. The Bible says, I always say this to my husband, the Bible says when you're in the book of Deuteronomy, when you're walking, when you're eating, when you're lying, and it means without ceasing, all of the time, teach this book of the Lord, teach this the values, teach these principles, And I think that should be our focus. But yes, I very much agree with you that, but I think it's an agenda that we shouldn't allow.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. And the thing as well is that the family is the smallest unit of society, and society is built from the template of a family. So if the family is destroyed or altered to be something that God did not design it to be, then society also becomes altered. And it just, God's plan for us to multiply and populate the earth and so on, then, it is clearly under attack. So, but and it's a good thing that your sons are open with you. I've had a similar conversation with my oldest son as well, where he said he doesn't even think he's going to get married. I'm like, where did you get that from? His own reason was that he sees too many broken marriages, and he just seems like he doesn't know many people who have sound marriages. And I said, but you live at home with us, your parents. He goes, yeah, but you and dad are a rarity. And it broke my heart because I think it was the first time that I realized that these children are, yes, they live in a loving home, thank God, and we all have such a great and close relationship, but they're also getting a lot of information from outside. Not that they're being taught because they're older, but they're seeing, what they can see, their friends and just all around them is what's informing them. And it feels as though the information outside the home is heavier and more insistent than the one inside the home. So that was a wake-up call for me as well.
And I think I'll just add it there that thank you for mentioning that, because one thing I think we have in common is our relationship with our boys. And I love the fact that you have those conversations with your sons. I remember not too long ago when I can't remember, but I think it was December, we had a bit of an argument in the house. And, after a while, when we all sat down to talk about it, and I believe so much in sitting down to talk. So we usually have family meetings. And in one of the family, when we were having that family meeting, my youngest son said, Mom, you know what? I'm really very proud of you and Dad. And I'm like, why? Why did you say that? So because of the disagreements that we're just going through, I didn't see that coming. And I said, why did he say that? And he said, because even though we have our differences, we're still able to sit down and have this conversation
together
and resolve issues. That Mom, I know what children are going through out there. I know what is happening out there. I hear what my friend is saying, and it's disturbing, Mom. You know, there are no stable homes out there anymore. And it just went on and on about it.
Wow.
And at that point, I remembered what a friend said. So one of the things we do at Jolugbo is what we call the family breakfast workshop. So when we pick up the Saturday in the year, and the family, we come together as a unit, various families, we pick up a topic, and, you know, we kind of have a workshop on that topic and take away actions.
Okay. Oh, that's
and
nice.
This year, I think this was 6 years ago, when one of my friends attended, we're talking, and a topic prayer came up, and she said, as much as she prays for her children, but she visualizes her children as three trees in the forest. But those three trees will not make up the whole of the forest. There's so many other trees in the forest. And so I've had the opportunity to work in farming environments and in public sector, therefore. And one thing I know is, if a tree has a disease, am I?
Yeah, you were frozen, but it's fine. Okay. So you can start again that you've had the opportunity to work in.
Okay, so
farming environment.
I have the opportunity to, I've worked in DEFRA, the Department for Environmental and Farming and Rural Agency, to work with farmers and land owners and all of that. And one thing I know is, if a tree has a disease, it's other trees in the forest or on the woodland are easily infected.
Okay.
So what my friend said there was, when she prays for her own tree, she also looks for ways of taking care of the other trees around her. Am I still frozen? I think can you hear me?
No, you're fine. I can hear you, yeah.
So she finds a way of impacting the lives of those other trees around her own tree. That got me. So even while I watch out for my children, I'm always watching out for their friends, even the ones that seem like the home is not, stable. I try to be that stability in their lives
for them.
Give that to them, because it matters. Look at what you're saying now, and it breaks my heart that young man has to be thinking that way and feeling. I see what my mom and dad are enjoying. He doesn't have the confidence to say that tomorrow I'm going to enjoy that, because of the amount of broken homes. And like you and I said earlier on, the message out there, particularly for our girls, is don't take no nonsense from no man. And if it happens, so again, as much as I don't want, I'm not in support of that kind of message to girls. I think I'm also keen on teaching the boys not to be any nonsense.
Not to even give the nonsense in the first place.
Give the nonsense. Don't be that person that somebody will point at and say, oh, we all have weaknesses, but your weakness shouldn't be what is the predominant thing in your life.
I agree with you. And really, I think that when the message is being sent out, like it is don't take this crap from men. Of course, we don't want girls to take crap from men. However, pre-judging or pre-deciding that men are going to come with their crap is what is toxic. It's really teaching the girls to expect it to come. And I think that the expectation of the nonsense that they're talking about, it attracts them to the people who carry that nonsense, and then they end up in toxic relationships in the first instance. So it's not that we're saying girls should accept abuse or bad behavior from guys. That's not what we're saying. We're saying stop preaching as though all men are bad. stop preaching as though all men come with baggage, and
Baggage.
therefore you, rather than teach the girls to recognize the beauty and godliness in a man, you're teaching them to look out for false, for failures, and look out for demeaning qualities. That is exactly what they're going to attract, so that they can practice what you've been preaching to them.
Exactly. Awesome. Thank you for that analogy. Yeah. And just to add to that, so while you stop teaching the girls to focus on those negativities or those negative aspects, which we all have one or two in us, you teach them to look out for the positive, because that's so that they attract that. And you also watch out for the boys around you to say, how am I going to impact the life of that young man? So it becomes an extraordinary man for the women.
That's right. Exactly.
Rather than it's looking, a lot of the time we look at this young woman misbehave, what they're going to do wrong. But rather than that being our focus, just a magnifying lens, a focus lens on the good thing these boys are doing. And when we see the shortcomings, help them.
Yes, that's right.
And you know what, Toks? Boys are lovely. Boys are amazing. I've never told a boy, hey, young man, that's not right. And they look at me twice and, argue with me. It's never happened. It's never happened. So when you tell them that they listen and they want to hear it to them, my son said, Mom, do you know doing that even means you notice me and you love me? That's what it means to them.
Yeah, that's right.
It's so amazing. I can go on and on.
We both can, but we can't say too much about it, because it's true, and that voice is being drowned out. And in a bid to elevate women, and in a bid to some of it is people who feel that who want to erase the gender boundaries and say that men and women are the same. I think there's a lot of harm that's being done, because they feel that the only way, obviously not everyone, but they feel that the only way that you can elevate a woman is to bring the man down, because society looks at men as being in higher positions, and they're stronger, and they're this, and they earn more, and so on. And some of that is true. And so they feel like the only way to bring balance is to pull the men down so that the women can rise. But unfortunately, if us women play our role as women and be women and use our femininity, and the men leave them to their masculinity, and then in our femininity and being taught by our mothers and aunties and the women in our lives, we're being taught to recognize good qualities in a man, then all the other bad stuff will fall apart to the side, because you wouldn't be drawn to them. So I agree. When it comes to the education and development, we're both from Africa, we're from Nigeria, amazing country, the best country in the world. We have this saying in Africa, amongst many African countries, that it takes a village to raise a child. So when it comes to the education and the development of a boy, for example, or even of a child, because not everyone has exclusively sons, specifically teenagers, what role would you say that the family plays in their education and their development?
I think, what role do they play? We play the major role. We play the major role as families, in developing our children. It all begins from the home. You said something earlier on. We're trying to impact the children from the home, but sometimes it seems like the societal voice is overshadowing our own voice. And that's why, as a family, we have to raise the volume. And how do we raise the volume? It's not just by the two of us, it's by coming together as that village that you mentioned. And again, as a person, this is where I want to echo that as parents, it's very important we're deliberate about the village, about the people around us, because they're going to be impacting the lives of our children. What is our village? What is your village made up of? Who are the people? What's the quality of people in your circle? So that it's not just you, it's all of us watching out for the other child.
That's right.
My experience, in some cases, it's been a case of, instead of us raising our children together as a village, it kind of metamorphosed into competitions. So I want my child to be better than yours.
Yes.
And then we have various things we're using as measuring tape or measuring yardstick that's better than yours. It's time for us to take our focus off that, to see these children as treasures and treat them as such, educating them from the home, creating time for them. Sometimes I listened to, I think it was Mrs. Adejumo, or one of these prominent women in Nigeria, so many years ago, and she was saying at some point she had to take a job outside of the home, that she would be away from the home for a couple of days and come back, But when she's back at home, she does this, she makes deliberate effort to be at home as a mother. And it was as though God was preparing me. Just like a couple of months or so after I listened to that, I had to leave away from home, go to work on a Monday, come back on a Wednesday, And at that time, I made up my mind that this is the time I will be the most present. So it was a case of when I'm driving to work in the morning and my husband is taking the children to school, I make sure they call me. I know when they leave the house, we'll be on the phone until he drops them on their way home, just being deliberate about it. We need to be deliberate. And again, as a parent, talking about educating your children from the home, identify your why.
That's right.
This is who I want my child to become. This is who I want my son to become. Why do I want this child to be this person? Because that's why is what you will hold on to when the going gets tough. And when we say, I know when we say identify your why, we're thinking of something big. It doesn't have to be big. It can be something as simple as, because I want to be a proud mom. Because I want to have people when I'm old. It can be anything. That's why. Maybe make sure it's in line with the word of God if you're a Christian parent, but that's why it's very important. It sets the foundation for how you raise your children. Also, it sets the foundation of how you position them. It sets the foundation of how you respond to them as well. So when we're thinking about educating our children, they do the maths and the algebra and all of that in school. What are the soft skills you're teaching your children? I'll say to my husband, the maths and the algebra and the English, they're fantastic. But hey, those will get them through the door. Those won't keep them in the room.
They won't keep them there.
Those won't keep them on the table. What are the things that will give them a voice on the table? While we get those things, those maths and everything in place, we need to be deliberate about getting the things that will keep them on the table, the things that will give them that voice on the table. And I think as parents, when we're thinking about education, that is very important. They don't teach them that in school.
No.
So how do we strike the balance?
It's true.
It's very important.
It's so true. It's important. You're 100% right. And for someone like me, I've always worked from home until maybe 7, 8 years ago when I started to work. Well, I worked from home and then got an office outside the home, but I was only in the office while my kids were in school. So I was very present for them physically, but I also recognized how distracted many times I was, even though I was physically present. And I had to make a concerted effort to shut down from work for a few hours and then resume work after they've gone to bed. And it was tough, but it had to be intentional. What tips do you have for moms like me who have very busy businesses and busy lives. It could, or even might be just working away from home, or working for in the corporate world or in the NHS or what have you. Whatever it is, our job takes us hours away from home, but also while we're present physically in the house, we get easily distracted and pulled back into work. What tips would you have for us for being present?
I think one thing that has worked with me is, like I said, identifying my why and just looking at the bigger picture. In a few years' time, where do I want to be with my children? And a very good example, my youngest son, is one of his love languages is quality time. And, you know, when he was a lot younger, he's the one that would come, oh, mom, movie night, mom, hangouts, mom, you know, and you're like, oh gosh, I've got a meeting, I've got this. And one day he said to me, he said, Mom, can you please just stop telling me about your meeting?
Wow.
And I was like,
wow.
Oh my word. And you know, it just comes out. It wasn't deliberate. And you know,
no,
so
it was
listening to your child, you know, and I'm grateful to God I listened to him. Oh my word. So cool. He went to school in September. And because he knows mom and dad would listen. So my phone is always on silent, but because of him, my research never goes off.
Okay.
When it's calling, and I just look and I see it's him, and
that's
I pick.
Right.
So I wear my watch to sleep in bed as well. And because sometimes at 1 a.m. is when he wants to talk, and he just picks up the phone. Mom, I'm sorry, mom, I woke you up. It's okay, just talk away. You know, being deliberate. Listening to them, that's a big tip. We might be doing something, but when they know we listen, they would tell us how they want to be loved. And when they tell you how they want to be loved, please give it to them as much as we can. And you know what, even when you feel that, okay, I can't give it to them. I was saying to a parent that, a mom that I'm currently coaching, I said, because she complained about, you know, that he's always bumping in when she's in. I said, okay, now sit him down and tell him the nature of your work. And then when he comes around, don't dismiss him. Agree with him. And then when you agree with him, keep to that appointment. So don't tell him, come back at 8 p.m. and we'll watch the movie. And then he comes back at 8 p.m. and you don't. Then you will no longer be a person of integrity as far as that's child is concerned. Give them your words and stick to it. Respect your word so they can respect the outcome, your word as well. Another tip is, know your children. What are their love languages? What are their personalities? One might be the tall one that wants to gist from you from morning till night. My older son, once he wants to talk, he can talk with you for 3 hours. But once he's not want to talk, he's fine, he's gone. My younger son is the one that comes, hey mom, Fantastic Four. I won't tell you what Fantastic Four is. Because I don't believe we still
is it some kind of meal? I was asking what Fantastic Four is.
It's some kind of hug. And
oh, bless.
I don't know where it came from. I don't know. Even this morning, I called him.
4 arms.
He gives me the hug. He hugs me from, and then he pecks here,
behind you,
and my nose.
Oh, that is so sweet. That's adorable.
So that's own connecting points with mom. So when mom, Fantastic Four. So, you know, even when he comes, so is that child that he comes in, does Fantastic Four, and is okay. With Big Brother, he wants to talk and pour out his heart. And the one that when he's talking, he wants to listen, just go, how about if you just listen? So knowing the child and their need, and you know, because these children are given to us for a purpose. So listen, learn, know your children, be present, respect them, and so that you are. That means I say that when I respect my children, it doesn't mean I'm bowing to them, but I'm respecting
No,
self
it's
as
respecting.
well.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm teaching them to respect as well. Respect your children and be available to them. It's irrespective of the age. It matters to these children. It's key to them. And then don't be a lone mother. Don't be a lone parent. Circle yourself. Have a circle of mothers that you do things with, a circle of mothers that you can talk to, mothers that have the same values as yourself that you can rub minds with. Parenting journey is not a bed of roses. No, you need sometimes somebody to help you remove the thorn from your skin and give you that raw pat on the back to say, you know what,
exactly,
mama, you can keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And having what you said earlier as well is the kind of people you have in your life, the kind of people you have in your space. We've got to be intentional about it because they are also speaking to the children's lives. And what I love about our relationships, my husband and I, our relationship with our friends, is that all of the boys know our friends and they know they can go to them and talk to them about anything as well. So we've created a bubble where they have assistant mom and assistant dad.
Exactly.
You know, if they want to, my best friend Susie is their assistant mother. They can walk up to her any day, anytime, roll up at her house, and they know, they trust her, like they really, really do. And, you know, so these are such wonderful tips. It really does take a village, but we have to be intentional about selecting the people in our village. So what's some of the, and I know that you've got an event coming up soon, haven't you? Tell us about that.
Okay, yes, so that it's called the Naomi's Tribe, and I know a few people have asked me, is Naomi your middle name? No, it's not. but so we've got the Naomi's Tribe coming up on the 18th of March, and in Bromley in London, and it's the maiden edition, the launch of, you know, we're talking about a village, you know, and a lot of times, God bless mamas of boys, we have a lot of stabbing, let me use that word, from the society. A lot of things are happening in our space because we want to raise, you know, exceptional boys. We want to get it right in our son. But a lot of us, sometimes we struggle, and even when we're not struggling, we just want somebody to be able to talk to, like you mentioned, Susie, right now. And, you know, it's sometimes difficult to be able to build that village yourself. So
that's true. Yeah.
Sorry, my alarm gone.
It's okay. It's all right.
It's sometimes, you know, daunting to build or create that circle for yourself. So the Naomi's Tribe is a circle of women raising extraordinary boys. So we're mama boys coming together to be able to work, Christian mothers of boys coming together to be able to work together to raise our sons and, you know, be that listening ear to another mother of boys, come together, share ideas, share challenges, and share our wins as mothers of boys so that we can together raise a nation of, you know, great and exceptional men. And because we know that sometimes we can't even do it by ourselves. We can't do so many things that contend for our attention, like we said earlier on, so many things that contending for our resources. But when we come together, we pull our resources together, you know, like them, we'll be able to chase more together. And so that's what the event is about.
That is awesome. What's the date? So it's at the Bromley Hotel. When is it exactly?
It's on the 18th of March, so the day before Mother's Day. So it's our way of mothers
celebrating moms.
Mother's
that
Day.
is
Exactly.
awesome.
There will be loads of activities we're going to be having. Oh my days, Toks. I listened to a woman called the word Smith sometimes.
Not in is it in Kemp?
No, she's I think her name is Twin. Her name is
Twin, the word Smith used to be a friend's name, her nom de plume for her blog. I remember years ago. I don't know if she still writes it, but anyway.
She's a poet, and you know, she's so amazing. And I just, when I listened to her and the way she described the woman by the well, it just made me see myself in that woman. And so we're going to be having the word Smith come talk to us and, you know, just share the word of God, share the life of a woman the way it is. And I just said to her, I said, you know what, the life of a woman, the way it is, you know how to articulate it. So the wordsmith will be there, and then there would be sessions for us to brainstorm. It's going to be practical. It's going to be real. We're going to be authentic with ourselves and, open. And then there's also going to be plenty celebration because it's Mother's Day. Celebrating
it's Mother's Day. Oh, that
and
sounds
plenty of gifts as well. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, that sounds really good. So guys, I'm going to leave all of those details in the show notes so that you can register, book, and make sure that you're there. I have tomorrow, I'm really looking forward to a spa day that a friend organized. And I can't tell you how excited I am, how, ecstatic I am to go for it, because I have had unbroken work days since the start of the year. And
that you already feel it's August, right?
Right. But let's start prepping for Christmas. And it feels like the year has been a very long one so far. And I've not stopped. But I'm glad that she organized this, because it means that I get to spend a whole day by myself. I mean, I take solo breaks and I go out of the country on holiday by myself as often as I can, which isn't often enough. It can never be enough anyway. And I deal with a lot of mommy guilt when I'm leaving, but the boys and their dad are always like, listen, just go. And they have all the fun while I'm gone, because there's a relaxation of rules and so on in my absence. But I can just imagine what Naomi's tribe is going to look like on a Saturday, because I'm a businesswoman and I have my hands doing quite a few different things. I sometimes struggle to unplug. I'm always working. And I didn't realize that I was overworking, because I really do enjoy my job. I enjoy what I do. For relaxation, I'm reading business news and charts and things like that, and I'm listening to podcasts. But I didn't realize that by doing that, it meant I never stopped working. And it doesn't matter that you enjoy what you do. Breaking that strand of nonstop working or nonstop whatever it is you're doing, by going in and hanging out with a group of women who share the same goal and vision as you, which is to raise their children well, and just being in a space where someone like the wordsmith will speak all over you. I think that's amazing. And I think that if you are considering going, definitely don't consider anymore, just go. And if you're thinking, oh, not for me, I'd rather spend the whole day doing something else, I want to encourage you to rethink it, because even things like going to the gallery, going for a walk in the woods, these things break patterns in our brain that then allows us to become creative. So coming out of your everyday activity on a Saturday, whether it's shopping or cleaning the house or cooking or working, I think it's going to be a real blessing. So well done for setting that up. That sounds amazing. Okay, we can keep going, and I have a few more questions I would love to ask you, but we're pretty much out of time. So where can people find you, Kiki?
Okay, thank you very much. And I agree with you that we can keep going, but
yes.
So you can find me on Instagram as Kiki Boys Mama, as simple as that. Kiki Boys Mama, one word on Instagram. And on Facebook, I am Bukola Jolugbo and Kiki in brackets. I'm also on YouTube, where I drop resources for parenting teenage boys every week. On there as Bukola Jolugbo and Kiki in brackets after the Jolugbo. Just type that on YouTube and you would find me. Everything I've got resources out there, and I've got a couple of resources on Amazon as well for the boys.
Oh, wow. Excellent. Well, all the links to all the things are going to be in the show notes or in the box below, wherever it is you're watching or listening. Kiki, I want to say a huge thank you to you for joining us. I want to thank you for being so generous, but even more importantly, so passionate about the cause and looking out for our boys and teaching us to go beyond simply raising them at home to empowering them and preparing them for the world that they're about to step into as adults. So you're doing a great job, and may God bless you immensely.
Thank you so much.
And I'll talk to you soon.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Excellent. You're welcome.